And welcome to the QCast. This is season 3, episode 16. Another huge thank you to all of you that continue to be so supportive of this. It's been a lot of fun doing it, and certainly appreciate all of your support and your feedback. This is a really timely one, coming off of what was the kind of the game of the night in Division 3 and one of the games of the year last night, the Middlebury Keene State game. And I'm honored to have as my guest today, Jeff Brown, the head men's basketball coach of the Middlebury Panthers. Jeff, boy, this is timely because just last night your team won an enormous game on the road. You guys have to be pretty fired up after the performance last night at Keene State. How are you doing today?
Yeah, we're doing great. A little bit tired, but last night was really an exciting night for our team, and we kind of answered the bell and caught a couple breaks at the end of the game, and just a great college game. And both teams really played at a high level, especially offensively. Neither team could stop the other, and it was a fabulous game.
You mentioned playing at a high level, and one of the things that I was thinking earlier today as I went back and rewatched that game in preparation for this conversation, that was just a high level basketball game. There's no need to put the Division 3 tag on it. That whether you like Division 1 or 2 or NAI or the NBA, that was a great basketball game. And Jeff, you've been at this a long time, but fair to say that there aren't a lot of basketball games that'll be played this weekend that are any better than what happened last night in that game. Talk a little bit about kind of the caliber of Division 3 basketball.
Well, it's being a longtime coach within Division 3, the level of play has changed drastically. And actually, when I was in college, we played Middlebury all 4 years in the Division 1 versus Division 3 local rivalry. And within Division 3, there were hardly a lot of not a lot of dunks, not a lot of high level block shots. Last night you had Jeff Hunter from Keene State, one of the leaders in block shots, and Alex Sobel going at it. And guys would go to the rim, and the next thing you know, the ball is erased. And then some of the dunks that both of them had throughout the game were really pretty special. So the caliber of play in Division 3 is at a high level, and again, that was just an exciting game, all around, and just happy that we came out on top.
You mentioned your playing days. You went to Vermont, played at Vermont at that level, and I'm just curious. You've been at this a long time. You've been the head coach just at Middlebury since 1997. Is this year 25 or is this 26?
It's 25 in terms of playing seasons. We lost a year in COVID, so I arrived 26 years ago to Middlebury.
It's amazing, and going way back to being a senior at Vermont and trying to figure out what the heck you were going to do with your life. Was this always something that you knew? Did you know that you wanted to be a basketball coach, or just talk us through how you ended up making that decision?
Bob, it was not even a thought of mine. I love playing the game. And if I had the opportunity to prolong it and perhaps play in Europe, I would have continued to play. But I had an opportunity the year I graduated. A local coach at Manhattan College lost an assistant, contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in coming down and talking about a position on his staff. And I went down, not clearly knowing what coaching was all about in terms of the preparation, because my mindset was one of being a player.
Right.
But I was hired by Gordy Chiesa at Manhattan College as his full-time assistant back in 1982 when I graduated UVM.
That's awesome. And obviously from there found your way to Middlebury, where again, this is year 25 in terms of playing seasons. You're one of the most successful, respected coaches in our division. You have 400 plus wins, 4-time NESCAC champion, NCAA tournament runs several times. As you look back on this at this point, I mean, I talk about this with our coach Ron Rose a lot. He's in his 17th year, and is it like a time flies kind of thing? Can you believe that it's been 25, 26 years already? Or does it seem like it just goes by in a heartbeat?
It was a lifetime ago that I started. And again, taking over the program 26 years ago, it was not a quick fix for me. You know, my first 10 years, I believe we had 2 seasons above 500. And most seasons we were slightly below 500. We had very little success in postseason in terms of the NESCAC tournament play. It took us 10 years before we won our first playoff game within our league. So I pinched myself in, what we've been able to accomplish here through the hard work of our players and just buying into, being a team and being supportive teammates, and the culture of our program has, really remained pretty constant the last 14, 15 years.
In a league like that, I think you'd agree, it's really hard to come in as a program that's trying to build from the bottom of the standings too. And when you got there in 1997, the NESCAC was just really coming onto that national scene, and then exploded in the 2000s. Williams and Amherst, and just the league was so good. It's not easy to build in that environment. Or what was that like to try to build in an environment where you have, perennial Final Four teams at the top of the standings? And what was that all like?
Really difficult and challenging. And I think one area that restricts us a little bit in NESCAC is just playing opponents once per year when there is a big gap, and trying to make some headway into getting deep into the NESCAC tournament and some of those things. So I think it's really been a challenge that years ago it was generally Williams, Amherst, and Trinity consistently at the top, and then the rest of us trying to fight through. But now there's so much parity within Division III and within NESCAC that every single game in league is a challenge, and you don't know who's going to come out on top until the final whistle blows.
And a lot of times, that's sort of what everyone says in a conference. It seems like in Division III this year across the country, that is an absolutely true statement. In your league, it's a true statement. If you look at, like, Williams lost at home to Amherst that same weekend, I think, is that when you lost at Hamilton. And so these are games on paper. Those of us thousands of miles away say, oh, we're going to give Middlebury the win before they tip the ball. We're going to give Williams a win over Amherst. But there's incredible parity in your league and Division III. Is that kind of what you're seeing globally as you look at this, Jeff?
Definitely, Bob. Within the conference, we played our first league game at Hamilton. I was not surprised one bit. They have a really nice roster. They battled, they outplayed us. We kind of hung in there and fought, to the end. But they were better than us, on that night. And I don't think it was a big surprise. And then when I heard the result of Williams and Amherst, I wasn't surprised either, right? Because Amherst has a very long, tall team, and very young and very talented. So again, it's this, the situation is that, you got to try to bring it and be as consistent as you can, because any night, a conference opponent can knock you off.
Let's talk about a little bit where you are right now. You're 14-2. You're 3-1 in the NESCAC. Your losses, your 2 losses, you lost at Rochester. That was a game I watched. That was by 2 points. And that was when Rochester had Ryan Algier. It was before he got hurt. And then you lost the game we just talked about at Hamilton by 9. The Rochester game was similar to the Keene State game in that is 2 national powers this season squaring off. When you played that game at Rochester, and that was early, Did that feel like a biggie? I know last night must have felt like a biggie. Did the Rochester game at the time?
Yes, certainly. We had that circled on our schedule early. We had a scheduling agreement with us and Bowdoin playing, Rochester and Carnegie Mellon, and our players were really excited to travel to Rochester and compete against, a national team. And I also knew that Carnegie Mellon was, quite strong also. So both games came down to, final possessions, and we were lucky to split during the weekend. But I'm a big believer of trying to, schedule, quality opponents, because that really prepares us for the NESCAC regular season and then postseason if we're able to move on down the road.
That tournament was another good example of parity, because the conference you guys are playing against, the UAA, is an unbelievable conference, and it's impossible to sort it out. I'm one of the top 25 voters, and I mean, I started my ballot with Rochester, and then I put Wash U in this week, and honestly, I put Carnegie Mellon third in terms of the UAA, but Emory, Case, I don't know, NYU. I have no idea what order to put that league. I have no idea what order to put the top of your league. Um, Another great example, though, like that Carnegie Mellon team you played is awfully good, just like Rochester is, right? I mean, that was a really good weekend of basketball there.
Yeah, I considered that a signature win when we were able to knock off Carnegie on a neutral floor in Rochester. And, was really proud of the effort of our guys and being able to fight through. And, the Rochester game was more about us fighting back, and, they would have a lead, get it to double figures, and we would fight back, and there was no quit with our group. And then we came up a little bit short at the end. But, those games really helped, prepare for our league play. And, next couple of weeks will really kind of dictate, what direction, the NESCAC's going in terms of, standings.
Can I ask, with the NESCAC, kind of a naive question? I've never understood the answer to this. I'm a CCIW guy. I'm familiar with the CCIW. Our neighboring conference that's also powers the Wisconsin League, the WIAC. In every league I'm familiar with, there's a double round robin. The NESCAC does not have a double round robin. People are critical of that. People think that in some ways the league is kind of gaming the system, so like teams don't have to beat up on each other. I don't know why that is, that the league. Can you talk? Would you rather the NESCAC play a true double round robin so you get a chance to play Williams twice and Amherst twice, or are you okay with the way it is? Can you just talk through that a little bit?
Well, I think my preference, Bob, would be to have more league games. It's so exciting for our student athletes to compete against NESCAC opponents, and I think that 10 is too little.
Yeah.
For a conference schedule. But I would be in favor of splitting the division and playing one side twice and the other side once, and get to about 15 or 16 league games, which would give every school flexibility to schedule, play in some tournaments and play some national games. And however a coach feels that he wants to craft the schedule. But truthfully, the last time we had discussions about the double round robin was about 18 years ago.
Wow.
And there was just so little support of increasing the number of league games that it kind of died at that point. But we've been in a situation because of our location where scheduling has been a bear for us. And it would just be helpful for us because we have local schools that don't want to play us. So in a lot, every year we're scheduling 14 non-league games.
Right.
And a lot of times, those single games are in Boston, 4 hours away on a bus, or New York City, 5 hours away, because we can't find opponents close by. So it's a problem unique to Middlebury. But I really wish, because the games are so exciting within the league, that we had, more league games. And, another thing is it puts a lot of pressure. We played Colby, which has a quality team, This weekend they came to Williams and Middlebury and lost both, and they're currently 0-4 in a league that plays 10 regular season games.
Right.
And it's just to be in the second week of league play and to be in desperation mode already is kind of tough, but that's sort of the landscape of NESCAC scheduling.
And, Jeff, I want to ask you one more question about non-conference scheduling, because it's clear by your decision to go play Rochester and Carnegie Mellon and Keene State and others that you like a strong schedule. Not asking you to comment on this, I'm going to make my own personal statement. Not everyone in your league seems to agree with you. Some of the teams in the NESCAC roll into January with like this gaudy record, and you look and they haven't played anybody. I say that in jest. That's just my term. And you have a hard time assessing them. I'm voting for people in the poll pretty high, and they haven't played the type of teams that you have. And that's a struggle from someone that's trying to assess. Why have you made the decision to play such a strong schedule? Just talk us through philosophically why that is.
I think the biggest factor is the SOS, which is computed for selection for the national tournament. Last year we had a very young team, and just the way the scheduling, shook out, our SOS was not as high as it usually is, and thus we were left on the board with an 18-6 record. I just think that if you have a strong SOS, then there's more margin to tag a couple more losses onto the resume and still be a quality candidate for selection. So in most years, and again, the scheduling is difficult with us sometimes, but Keene we've played every year, but teams shift from year to year.
Right.
So you can craft what you think is going to be a strong schedule, and then a team has an injury,
right,
and they kind of flounder, and it kind of changes, that good win that you were planning
right,
in scheduling now turns out to be a mediocre win,
right,
because of external factors. So I just really favor of testing our guys, playing teams with different styles, because if you do get to the national tournament, you might have a team that really is up tempo and pressing and plays the style that Keene plays, which is very difficult to play against. So you have some experience in different styles.
Next year, I believe that you're going to the Great Lakes Invitational in Springfield, Ohio. My Illinois Wesleyan Titans are going. I'm doing some behind the scenes politicking, trying to see if we can't get a Middlebury Illinois Wesleyan matchup. Now, that's neither here nor there, but really another indicator of you guys seeking out tough games. When you sign up for that Great Lakes Invitational run by my guy Ryan, you're going to get 2 tough games there, Jeff, right?
Most certainly, Bob. And that just aligns with my feeling about playing strong teams and having exposure for our student athletes. And the event at Rochester last year was really a lot of fun for our team members, because of the spotlight of competing against UAA teams in a classic format. So I felt that would be a great idea to take our team on the road and play some different teams. We have played Illinois Wesleyan once
in New York, or was that the College Staten Island tournament? Maybe
exactly. We played them down there and had a terrific game that we scored a basket right before the buzzer to beat them, and again, just trying to play some of the best teams in the country, when it works out.
Well, certainly from my standpoint, I appreciate everyone that seeks out good competition. You guys clearly do that year in and year out. Let's talk about this team. So, Jeff, this Alex Sobel guy, this is kind of like the dream D3 recruit, because 6'8", he is a true 5. he's a mobile five. He's a good distributor. When I say he's a true five, I don't mean he just plays with his back to the basket, because you do a whole bunch of cool things with him offensively. 20 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. He shoots 59% from the field. I'm curious. I always find it interesting how superstar players landed up where they did. How the heck did you find Alex Sobel and get him to Middlebury?
Well, Bob, we had the good fortune that both mom and dad are alums of Middlebury College. So he certainly was aware of Middlebury, and in the recruiting, I believe it came down to us in Swarthmore. And I think the parents gave him a nice, healthy nudge.
That helps.
Headed north and to come to Vermont.
That's awesome. We'll talk a little bit more about his game last night, but just such a uniquely gifted player. He's really good around the basket, but he also gets it a lot in that like high post with his back to the basket. And he can kind of turn and face up, or he distributes a lot from the high post. Can you talk about kind of how you use him in your offense? Because he's a unique player, and he just does so much damage on the court, offensively and defensively. But talk about how you use him.
Yeah, I think the word unique is appropriate, because I've never coached a player like him, somebody who is so versatile. I can remember, him coming in as a freshman and stopping practice and saying, Alex, you got to catch the ball with 2 hands. Well, his paws are so big that he can direct the ball one hand, rifle passes one hand. He's added the ability to dribble the ball up the floor. It was not something we talked about at the start of the game, but Keene puts so much pressure on guards that we had him probably 6, 7, 8 times just bring the ball up himself and then hand it off, and we could get into some offense. But his game has really grown in leaps and bounds. The rate that he's able to rebound and block shots is just truly spectacular. I think he probably made 2 threes in his whole career going into this season. And we played a game at Endicott, and he goes 4 for 5 from the 3-point line. And looking at the game tape afterwards, seeing Coach Benacourt pulling his hair out, saying, after the second one, just can't believe it. And then he hits the third and the fourth one before he misses the last one. But Alex is just truly special. And we've made a conscious effort to have him touch the ball on offense. And he leads us in assists, leads us in points, block shots, rebounds. So he does it all for us. And we've never have had a player, here at Middlebury that dominant in so many different areas. And it's just, it's a great feeling to feel confident that you have the best player on the floor every night out. For a coach, that's really comforting.
There was a possession fairly late. It was in the second half of that game where there was a dead ball, like a whistle, and he just grabbed the ball and just was palming it. And you don't see that a lot in Division III. You're right. Like just these guys with monster. It was almost like an NBA player just standing there with the ball. And that's the first thing I thought was, man, this dude must have massive hands, which is such a luxury playing this game. A couple other players I wanted to ask you about before we get into last night. You have a 6'5" sophomore guard, Sam Stevens, that's averaging 13 points and 5 rebounds a game, and Noah Osher, 13 points, 3 rebounds. He's a 6-foot junior. Talk a little bit about Sam Stevens and Noah Osher.
Yeah, a year ago, Sam Stevens was our rookie of the year in the NESCAC and was second team all NESCAC. And he's a shooter who has not shot the percentage that he's capable of shooting this season, but his game has really grown attacking the basket. And last night he got us some big hoops and got to the foul line, penetrating Keene's defense, and just he's a big presence for us on the offensive end. And then Noah Osher, is a very talented offensive guard who can hit tough shots, and on the defensive end usually gets the top assignment defensively and just locks in on guys. And, the two of them have really been consistent contributors for us. And, Noah's a junior and Sam is a sophomore. So a year from now, when we don't have Alex, we're going to really have to lean on those two to really provide more offense and get them more shots on the offensive end.
Yeah, with those three, and then you're a deep team. You have all kinds of other talent outside, but with those three, you've got so much kind of talent and leadership on the floor. Going into the game last night, it was a huge game because you're in Region 1 and Keene State's in Region 2. So you're not in the same region competing for regional rankings, but you know very well that geographically, the way the bracket's made and everything, where you stack up versus Keene State is a very big thing. And just the nature of the who wins and loses in terms of their own region's rankings is a big thing. My question being, coming into the game, how big of a contest did that feel to you last? And it had to have felt like a monster game going in, right?
Yeah, definitely. We played them very early in the year, a year ago. And when the game ended, the Keene guys were celebrating so much because they anticipated we were going to be a team that would be ranked, in the region, and those wins are really important at the end of the year. And I felt the same way last night. Was just, we could really, last year when we were on the bubble, everyone talked about, Middlebury doesn't have any signature wins,
right?
And going into the game, we made that plain and simple to our guys that, this is a great opportunity, the same way that Rochester was a great opportunity to get signature wins, that if we're progress and we're in that hunt for the NCAAs, it could really go a long way. So, so our guys just, really kind of locked in. We had a great start and, then fought some runs and then finally came back in the second half, to nail down the win in the last minute of the game.
When you talk about those signature wins, it's a great point. I interviewed last year's national chair Mike Shower several times in this QCast, and I remember he used the term regarding regional RRO wins. He called them gold chips. That's the term he used. Those are gold chips. I think you knew going into the game last night that Keene State is going to be regionally ranked. And if you win a game especially on their floor, like that's just something that's going to be in your pocket the rest of the season. And so it's a great point about how important that game was. Talk about like dealing with the Owls, because I think I've been ranking them, I should remember this, like second or third for weeks now. I think they are fantastic. Jeff Hunter's a 6'7" senior forward that is also what I would call a unique player, different than Alex Sobel, but an absolute stud of a post guy. Octavio Brito is a 6'4" sophomore guard. Hunter is 20 points a game, 14 rebounds, and Brito is 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. And then plenty of other guys like coming in. What was the game plan? How do you construct a game plan with that much talent anchored by those two guys?
Very difficult, Bob. In my opinion, they might have 2 All-Americans.
Yeah.
There's not many teams in the country that you could say, have 2 players as talented as Brito and Hunter. Our game plan was to try to make it more of a half-court game and slow it down. I told our guys, we got a great shot to win if the score is in the 60s. We ended up getting to the 80s,
right?
But our guys found a way, and and it was just an exciting offensive game. And we're a team that's generally isn't built to shoot 50% in a lot of games, and both teams were right about 50%. So it turned into an offensive game. And on top of Brito and Hunter, Nate Seau had an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
He penetrated our defense, the last 10 minutes of the game and just made so many plays, either for himself scoring or his teammates. And, we were really challenged trying to stop them on the defensive end because of their quickness and length and their ability to shoot in Brito.
One of the keys to the game that I thought was in the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game, it feels to me like you guys were the team that delivered the punch, and those games can go either way. There was 2,000 people there, absolute incredible environment. At least it looked like to me from watching a video stream. It was loud. People were into it. And sometimes you see the road team just kind of struggle. You see that. Last night, you guys got up about 10 points in the first 5 or 6 minutes, and it really felt like you guys were the aggressor. If you watch like your bench and you watch what was happening on the floor, talk about the first 5 minutes or so and kind of the energy that your guys brought to the floor.
Yeah, I think that was really a key to the game. I think if we had a slow start, we probably would have been in deep trouble. But we were able to get a little cushion early and gain some confidence, seeing the ball go through the net early in the contest. But our group is a confident group, and I think going into the game, we felt that we were certainly capable of winning that game on their floor. And and I think when you're on a road against a really talented team like Keene, you just you want to get to the last 4 minutes, 5 minutes, in the game and a chance to make some things happen. And then we were able to hit a timely shot with the score tied with less than a minute to go. And then it still got interesting because they're so talented. When they tied us up, and got the ball back, Alex Sobel was able to block 2 shots in the last 10 seconds of the contest. And then our freshman, Evan Flaks, was able to hit the 2 free throws. So I could finally breathe comfortably with 2 seconds to go, up 4, that we had this game.
With a minute 55 left, it looked like you guys were in trouble. You're down 4 points with 1:55 and you call timeout. Now I'm thinking at that moment, must score possession here. If you don't score, they come down, they go up 6. Even if they run off 30 more seconds, you're in trouble at that point. When you were in that timeout, you ended up getting a basket, and it was an assist from Sobel to Brennan. I'm picturing Sobel was like in the middle of the lane, and there was some defensive breakdown where Brennan ended up, I think he may have dunked it. But was that a set that you guys ran, or was there did you just simply run your offense and it led to that? Or talk us through that play with 1:55 to go coming out of a timeout.
Yeah, we were just going to Alex, but he drew so much attention.
Yeah.
So Brennan's man came over to provide some support, and that's where Alex's vision was able to find David, and then he finished with that dunk. But it was just a great offensive player, but we just wanted to get the ball in our best offensive player's hands and try to make a play. And we were fortunate that we were able to get that score and then tie it up and have the ball with a chance. And again, we were running a set on the shot by Osher with 40 seconds to go, looking for Alex as a primary target off a diagonal screen, and Noah set the screen and stepped out to the 3-point line. And he doesn't lack confidence in any way. He told us before the game, we got this, and he was able to knock that shot down and gave us that cushion that we needed.
Just before that, like after that Sobel to Brennan, you got to stop. And then I thought another really big play was they fouled you guys. So I think that Stevens shot a free throw. He made one, missed one, but on the miss, Brennan chases down an offensive rebound off a free throw miss, which was an incredibly huge play of the game, because soon after that is when Osher hit that 3. So like you talk about just little 50-50 balls and hustle plays. When he got that free throw offensive rebound, I mean, little things like that win and lose these games, Jeff. I mean, that was a big one.
Well, I tell you, Bob, David Brennan is probably the best in the country at getting loose ball rebounds. And he had 13 rebounds with all that length and athleticism on the floor. He's spectacular. His timing and his will to want the ball is at such a high level. And he makes so many of those quiet plays. And, a lot of times doesn't really get the credit, or, people don't talk about him in the same light as some of his other teammates who score the ball more. But his value to our team is just incredible. And to think about it, he's averaging 9.7 rebounds per game.
Wow.
Alex is averaging 11.9. They're averaging about 47% of our rebounds between the two of them. And that's been the magic sauce for us having the success that we've had, is just, we get more opportunities off of our rebounding, offensive rebounding, and, controlling the boards on the defensive end and being second in the country and rebounding margin. It's a big difference because we're not 14-2 without it, the rebounding and, the special intensity that David Brennan brings to our team.
We talked about Sobel, who, by the way, we should just mention, had 31 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists, and was 13 of 18 from the field. That's a pretty good game right there, Coach. And Stevens had a big game. Brennan, we talked about Osher. Off the bench, how about this Flaks kid? I mean, what a contribution you got from him. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, it was awesome. He was 4 from 4 from the 3-point line, and hit some big threes for us throughout the course of the game. And just, he's probably the one player that can perform in a track meet against the Keene State guards and not just get completely dusted. But his energy and his confidence on the floor were really huge for us, and think about it, being a freshman, he's played against Rochester, he's played against Carnegie Mellon, he's played against Keene State, and to come up big in that game was just fabulous for our group. Yeah, and again, awesome. It's one possession game, so if he goes 2 for 4 from 3, we lose the game, but he hit a lot of timely big shots for us.
So you celebrate last night and everything's great, and you look at the schedule, and you Saturday you go to Williams, right? So you have Williams coming up. No time to look back now on this big Keene State game that just happened. That is another enormous basketball game that probably will feel the same way, different because it's a conference game. But talk about your big matchup with your conference rival Williams coming up Saturday.
Yeah, it's it's exciting. That's the word that I use for it. They're a quality veteran team that made a deep run in the NCAA tournament last year. Beat us pretty handily both times we played them last year. They knocked us out in the conference semifinals a year ago, and a little bit quirk of the schedule. We do only play our conference opponents one time, but we played them last year at Williams, and now we're going back again and playing on the road against that team because of a quirk in our scheduling. But our guys will be really jacked up and excited to compete against them. But I think they're as good as advertised. They have all the parts. They're a very long team. Their guards are 6'3", 6'4", so they present a different type of problem than Keene State presents. But they're really talented and playing really well. I mean, I don't think losing to Amherst and you have one loss on the season should really change the thought about how talented they are and what a great program they are. But we have quite a history with Williams and the Amherst under Coach Hickson. That it's always an enjoyable battle against them. They're the NESCAC school that's closest to us, about 2 hours and 15 minutes down Route 7 from us, and it'll be exciting to compete with them on Saturday afternoon.
I think one thing that's cool about your schedule this year and the way it's played out, there's some Division three teams that kind of just stay local. You know, they play their conference and then they play other teams that look like them. With the teams you've played, no matter who you play in the NCAA tournament, I think you will have seen that type of style this season. When I think of, you know, your Rochester, Carnegie Mellon, Keene, Williams, you will have played quickness, you will have played size, you will have played, you know, dribble drive. That's got to be, you know, we're not penciling you into the bracket quite yet, but let's just say that you get there. That's a pretty cool thing to have played different styles of basketball this year. Do you see it the same way?
I definitely do. You know, there are some of the non-league teams that are very athletic, like Nichols, that I was excited to play them in a classic tournament, just because of the style and just knowing how quick they are and how difficult, you know, the difficulties of trying to guard them in the open floor. And I talk to our team all the time about, you know, we're a program that's two tempo. You know, we'll like to push it sometimes and against some opponents, but I think with Alex and the makeup of you know, Sam and Noah on the perimeter, you know, we can play a game in the 50s if need be, and be successful too. So I'm excited about the opportunity to continue to play. We still have to play well in the challenging NESCAC league, and but maybe down the road we might be a team that you're talking about. Come the end of February.
Oh, definitely planning on that. It sure looked like it last night. Jeff, you've been very gracious with your time. I know you're busy. Want to give you a chance. There'll be some Middlebury fans tuning in. There'll be Division three fans tuning in that watched that game last night. Want to give you a chance to, throw out any final words that we didn't get to. Is there anything you'd like to say to the folks tuning into the QCast today? What would you add to the conversation?
Well, I just to reinforce that it was just an unbelievable college basketball game last night at Keene, and just excited with the win, but the way we played, if it didn't turn out to be a W, I would have been so proud of the way our group competed, and the atmosphere was really special. It just reminded me of playing in the NCAA tournament where it's a full house and everybody's against you, but you got to try to find a way to win, survive, and advance. So it had that feel of a postseason game, and that's what we're looking at. On Saturday, going down to Williams, it'll be postseason type of environment down there, and I think it's exciting for Division III and for players in both programs to play in that type of environment.
Well, it was a huge win. It was two really great programs. I've had now both coaches from the game last night on the QCast this season, which has been an honor, getting to hear from you guys directly on kind of the ins and outs of your program. We'll continue to be watching, Jeff, as the season goes on, including this Saturday against Williams. That's going to be another one where D3 Nation is tuned in. It's going to be a fun one. Folks, that was QCast Season 3, Episode 16. Wish Jeff Brown and his Panthers luck the rest of the way. They're playing great. Jeff, thank you so much for your time. This has been a blast. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Take care.